Hey, thanks for checking back in. This is the third and final build video on this '04 Honda Odyssey that I'm making. If you haven't seen the first two, I'll leave links to those two at the end of the video and in the written description. The reason I say it's the final one is because I love this van just the way it is. There's really nothing I would have done dramatically differently if I had the whole thing to do over again. There are only two aspects of the van that I wish were different, but they will never change, and that is that I can't stand up and that I can't take it down a four-wheel drive road. In this video, I want to describe just a few final modifications that I've made and a few things to make it a little more convenient when I travel. So I showed in my first two build videos how the inside of the van is laid out for really easy cooking. Right from the couch, I can reach everything in the cooler, the dry goods, the garbage, the sink, the table, everything. So that works very well. However, cooking and cleaning up sitting down, it's a little cramped, and it's nice to be able to stand up. So when the weather's nice and the bugs aren't too bad, I like to cook outside, and I added something so that I can make that possible. I took a piece of scrap board and some aluminum bar that I had sitting around my garage, and I made an extension counter for the sink cabinet so that I could have more workspace at a standing height. And then I also added an insert for this sink to make this usable workspace as well. So that all works great. And right now I probably have at least 5 square feet of usable counter space, and that's super convenient. Now, while I'm over here, I got to get in just another plug for my faucet and sink system because I love this thing. And here are a few reasons why. The first thing I like about this faucet design is that it's tall. So that means I can get tall things under it. I fill my water pitcher probably a couple of times a day, and it's so easy to just slide it under and fill it up. The other thing about this sink that I really appreciate is that the faucet slides out of the way. So now when I'm cooking and I'm using this as functional space, I don't constantly bump this thing when I'm moving around. And then finally, the last thing I really appreciate is that the pump and the faucet design allow a variable water flow. The pump at full bore goes at about 1.5 liters per minute, I think, but I don't need that much flow all the time. So it's really useful to be able to turn the water flow down when I just need a tiny amount of water when I'm brushing my teeth or washing my hands. I don't want it at full bore because that just wastes water. So I really like the fact that I can attenuate the water flow to minimize my water use, so therefore I don't have to fill it as often. While I have the door open, I want to show you what I have on top and talk a little bit about power. This is a 100 watt Renogy panel, and I have it mounted to the Thule rack with simple Z brackets. And this is wired into the van through the back door. One nice thing about this back door is that it does not crush the cable when the door is shut. I've made a small, probably 1/2 centimeter slit in the insulation to run the wire inside, and I verified that even in powerful rainstorms, there's absolutely no leakage through this gasket. And then this cable comes in through this hole here, and it connects to a 60 amp hour EcoFlow power station. I can also charge the battery through 12 volt alternator outlet right there. So between these two, I can either charge while driving or charge through the solar panel. So one question you might have is whether or not a 60 amp hour battery plus 100 watt panel plus optionally alternator charging, is that enough power? And the answer, of course, is it depends. Depends on how much driving I'll do, depends on how sunny things are, and depends how much I have plugged into the battery. So in my case, the only thing I have regularly plugged into the battery is the refrigerator, and that runs at about 25 watts on a time averaged basis. I don't use it at night because I don't like mechanical sounds when I'm sleeping, and that only raises the temperature in the fridge about 10 or 15 degrees by morning, so that works well, and it saves a lot of power. So using my system in that configuration, I can get about 2 or 3 days, even if I'm not doing any driving, and even if it's cloudy or rainy. So I haven't come too close to running out of power yet, but it might happen, and my philosophy is pretty flexible. If the situation arises where I'm running out of power, I change my plan and just roll with it. So for now, I don't have any plans to upgrade it. I think what I have is enough. Now, when you're out camping, it might seem that showering and hair washing is a little less critical than when you're at home. But after a couple days, you start thinking about it. So the first part of my shower setup consists of a submersible water pump, which is powered by USB, has a several foot long hose and a spray handle, my trusty 5-gallon bucket, another 1.5 gallon wastebasket, and 1.5 gallons of water. So I actually like to separate hair washing and showering into 2 stages. The reason is because hair washing requires no privacy, it doesn't require hot water, and for many people, including me, it doesn't really have to be done as often. The other reason I like to separate it into 2 stages is because for me, shampooing takes more soap than body washing, and I like to collect that water in a bucket and dump it into my gray water tank where I can dispose of it safely. I don't want to just dump that kind of water on the ground. I don't think that's really responsible, and in many places it's not permitted. So I'm going to take this 1.5 gallons, dump it in the little bucket, drop in the pump. So when I turn this switch on, I get a nice soft flow. All right, let's go for it. So that was incredibly easy. I just did a perfectly comfortable and satisfactory hair wash with about 2 to 3 quarts of water. Now, if you have more hair, it's going to take longer, take more water, but the idea is the same. It's so easy, and you can do it anywhere, just sitting at the edge of the van. All right, so the next step takes a slightly greater leap of faith and 1 extra piece of equipment. And voila, instant privacy tent. Here's a quick tour of the privacy tent. It's just big enough for 1 person, although 2 could fit in here. It's got a strap to hold your towel and a little net bag to hold your glasses and stuff. So I confess I added 1 little step onto this. I boiled up a pot of hot water and threw it in the bucket. So this is actually not a cold shower, it's like a lukewarm shower. All right, that was an awesome 3-gallon shower. I even have a little water left over. That was actually the first time I've done that. I've set that system up at home just to make sure everything worked, but that was the first time for full Monty. And you know, it was strangely exhilarating. Not in some weird way, but there's a lot going on in those 2 minutes. You're on the clock for the water. You got about 2 minutes to get the whole job done. For those 2 minutes, you're distinctly vulnerable. You start not to worry about that as the pressure of the water emptying builds, but it's something to think about. It's a new experience, kind of fun. So tonight I'm making a vegetable boosted pasta sauce. It's something I like to make at home, and here are a few highlights. That was a great dinner. It's one of my easy road favorites. But the sun set quite a while ago, so it's time to transform this space into a bedroom. So I wanted to give you a live demonstration of how long it takes, how difficult it is, and exactly what I do to get ready for bed. But before that, I want to spin back just a few hours to some videoing I did to describe the change that I made to the bed frame and give a couple of details about the floor. I've gone ahead and removed the cushions from the couch so I can illustrate this point a little more clearly in the modification that I made. If you remember from my last video, there were 4 legs underneath this front panel, 2 in the front and 2 in the back to support the front panel when it's extended into bed mode. But it was a little hard for me to get to the one in the corner, so now there are only 3. So now when I pull the front panel out, there are only 3 legs. And the reason I took out that 4th leg in the far corner is because it was a little hard to get to, especially when I was converting from the bed mode back to the couch mode. I had to reach around and push the little release button to release the leg. So what I did was I replaced that leg with a bracket. This bracket is attached to the leg and the front part of the frame, and it provides support for the front panel back here when this panel is pulled forward into bed mode. And therefore, I've been able to eliminate the leg in this rear corner. One of the questions that I got asked quite a lot in the comments after my second build video is how I made the floor and how it's attached to the van and to the other parts. So the floor is essentially a piece of 3/4 inch plywood cut to the peculiar shape of this van. On top of that are interlocking vinyl plank flooring sections, and you can get this at Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's completely waterproof, really easy to keep clean. And then these are bound together by aluminum corner pieces, which are typically used for vinyl floor installation and carpeting. And that's simply nailed through the top to secure these 2 pieces together. Now when I nailed it through the top, I did use round cap nails so that I wouldn't catch the edge of the nail in my socks or my bare feet or anything like this. This has worked extremely well, and if I had it to do over, I would do it exactly the same way. The other question I got was, how's the floor attached to everything else? The floor is not directly bolted into the van floor. It's bolted to the bed frame in 2 places, and then the bed frame is bolted to a 2x4 which connects the rear seat anchors in the back of the van. And I showed that in the first build video. And then the floor is also bolted to all the other parts. The floor is bolted to the bed frame, it's bolted to the sink cabinet, and it's bolted to the shelf unit. And then the shelf unit and the sink cabinet are bolted to each other. Everything acts as a single piece, so nothing can wiggle with respect to each other. And I'll tell you, after 2.5 years and 35,000 miles, nothing moves. Nothing. All right, back to the task at hand. Convert this couch into a bed, make it up, and turn the lights out. So the way I use this is, after I pull it out, I put a fitted twin-size bottom sheet on top of the mattress, and then I use a sleeping bag as a quilt unzipped on top. And the kind of sleeping bag I use is a mummy style sleeping bag. And the reason I use that is a mummy style sleeping bag has a foot pocket at the bottom that always stays in place because the zipper is only 3/4. And the nice thing about that is even when you unzip the thing and spread the whole sleeping bag over you, the foot pocket remains in place. And I like that because I like to put my feet in the foot pocket all night long, because I don't like it when my feet unexpectedly poke out from underneath the blanket, they get cold, and then I wake up. So that works really well for me. And also, the other benefit of using a mummy style sleeping bag is that they're really thermally efficient if it does get cold. I can get inside the bag, zip it up completely, pull the drawstring hood, and I'm still toasty warm at about 20 degrees. Now, I haven't actually had to camp in the van in that cold a condition, but I've been down to about 30 degrees and I'm still completely warm, and I could easily go another 10 degrees. So it works out really well. All right, let's see how long this takes to make up the bed. Good night. See you tomorrow. That's it for today. So until next time, maybe I'll see you down the road.